Chapter 71 Endless Thunder Punishment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a flash, Chen Fan crackled with lightning, standing tall in the air. Boom! Dark clouds swirled overhead, streaked with jagged blue lightning, waves of thunder pulsed outward, turning the landscape hundreds of yards around into an electric storm. Chen Fan's hair whipped around his head, wreathed in twisting blue lightning that looked like living snakes. Even more terrifying, some of the electrical energy was starting to coalesce into a violet hue. Boom! A thunderclap ripped through the sky, and dragon-like bolts of lightning slammed down from the clouds. Simultaneously, arcs of electricity surged up from the coast below. Chen Fan stood between these dueling powers, channeling their energy through himself. His power surged, thunder crackling at his side. He looked like the god of thunder himself, master of the storm. Monet and Lafitte gaped at the sight. They'd never seen anything like it. Holy crap, dude, this is insane. Is he seriously becoming a god? Monet breathed. That's the captain I want to follow. The one who's gonna turn the world on its head. Lafitte grinned. Nico Robin was speechless, her eyes wide and unfocused. She was more determined than ever to join his crew. Only someone this strong could help her. On the beach, Sakaski had gathered all the magma around him, pushing his power to the limit. The molten rock engulfed his body. He stared up at the destructive lightning. A flicker of concern crossed his face. He hadn't realized Chen Fan's devil fruit powers were so advanced, capable of amplifying his strength to such a degree. Suspended in the air, Chen Fan, radiating godlike power, glanced down at Sakaski. The weak will always lose. Sakaski's face contorted in fury. A prodigy like him wasn't about to be beaten by a contemporary. You think you can defeat me? With a burst of speed, Sakaski transformed into magma and shot skyward. His fist, black and wreathed in fire, aimed for Chen Fan. This punch packed at least 30% more power than before. Unfazed, Chen Fan's expression remained icy. He channeled the thunder of destruction into his fist, meeting Sakaski's attack head-on. Boom! Thunder met magma in a cataclysmic explosion that shook the heavens and the earth. The clash of natural forces carved deep craters in the ground. Then, the blue figure and the crimson figure were locked in furious combat. Each blow sent shockwaves rippling through the air. The destructive thunder threatened to obliterate everything, while the scorching magma seemed determined to consume it all. Armament hockey, Thunder Serpent. Chen Fan roared. The lightning around his fist transformed into a fearsome thunder dragon, lunging at Sakaski. Armament hockey, Hellhound. Sakaski countered, unflinching. Burning magma surged from his fist, coalescing into a gigantic magma hound. Boom! The two attacks collided, sending shockwaves in all directions. The midair explosion blew away the clouds. Both fighters were thrown back hundreds of feet. Ah, what's the matter, dog? Is that all you've improved in 2 years? Chen Fan taunted, a flicker of amusement on his lips as he unleashed a torrent of destructive thunder. 5 billion volts, endless thunder punishment. As Chen Fan raised his hands, dark clouds instantly blanketed the sky, rumbling with thunder. Bolts rained down, turning into thunder dragons that targeted Sakaski. Killing you is enough. Great eruption. Sakaski bellowed, his face twisted in rage. Sakaski poured more magma into his hands, gathering and amplifying its power to a fever pitch. He then released countless magma fists that shot skyward like meteors. Boom! The thunder dragons and magma fists collided in midair, triggering continuous explosions that sounded like mountains colliding. Everything was destroyed, annihilated, shrouded in dust. It looked like the end of the world. The approaching Navy ships and the Lafitte crew watched the magnificent explosion unfold. The sheer scale of the clash between these two natural forces had them frozen in place. The brutal exchange lasted for nearly a minute before finally dying down. The coast was now a ruined wasteland of scattered thunder and hardened magma. It had been deliberately spared from naval bombardment, but no longer needed it. Kazan and Hawkeye Mihawk continued their fight in the area, seemingly unaffected. The residual energy would be fatal to ordinary people, but only presented a slight inconvenience to them. Suspended in the air, who Chen Fan and Sakaski gasped for breath. Even they were exhausted after sustaining such powerful attacks, yet, their fighting spirit remained undiminished, driven by the desire to kill each other. Chen Fan's face remained cold, crackling with electricity. Sakaski's face, encased in magma, was feral. The two locked eyes. Without a word, they transformed into their respective elements. Thunder ripped through the sky as magma consumed everything in its path. Two figures danced together, colliding and battling in midair. As time passed, drops of blood splattered onto the ground, and gruesome wounds marked their bodies, but they continued to fight with everything they had, refusing to back down. Below, on the Thor, Monet nervously watched the battle. Lafitte, you think the captain can beat this dead dog? Have some faith. Right now, it looks like he has a slight edge, Lafitte responded. Lafitte, due to being stronger, could discern the changes. Although the fight seemed even, the thunder was slowly eroding the magma. With time, the situation could change drastically. The Navy soldiers and officers on the warships also watched the battle anxiously. Chapter 72 Thunder Unicorn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thunder God Chen Fan and Hawkeye Mihawk are insane, right? How long can Kazan and Sakaski hold them off? You think we're gonna lose? No way. Kazan and Sakaski are freaking monsters. These two guys look like they're barely out of high school. No way they can take down Sakaski and Kazan. That's right. We're the Navy, we stand for justice. Victory is ours. Most of the Navy grunts were sure Kazan and Sakaski had this in the bag. Only a few of the higher-ups were picking up on some troubling signs. First, they watched the fight on the ground. Hawkeye Mihawk and Kazan were locked in a brutal stalemate. It was anyone's guess who'd win that one, but up in the air, Chen Fan was starting to get the upper hand on Sakaski, even if it was just barely. Still, at this level, a tiny edge could be the difference between victory and defeat. The battle raged on as the chatter continued. Explosions rocked the air as the two figures slammed into each other, both sporting nasty wounds. Chen Fan's fist, crackling with thunder and armament hockey, connected right with Sakaski's face. Sakaski, looking furious, blocked with his arms, which were coated in magma and armament hockey. Boom. Sakaski managed to block the punch, but he was still sent flying back several yards. Then, Chen Fan vanished, reappearing instantly, his right leg an axe of thunder aimed squarely at Sakaski's waist. Sakaski regained his footing, focused his magma power in his right leg, and swung it out to meet the attack. Bang, bang, The collision unleashed a deafening blast and sent shockwaves rippling through the air. They weren't done yet. The two traded blows, a brutal, bare-knuckle brawl. They fought like wild animals, using fists, hands, feet, even their heads as weapons. Time ticked by, and blood rained down. 10 minutes later, Chen Fan, wreathed in destructive thunder, and Sakaski, dripping with scorching magma, traded punches. The impact created an earth-shattering explosion, and both were blasted back hundreds of feet. Huff, huff. Chen Fan gasped for breath, his body trembling, the burns across his skin looking gruesome. The Thunder God form was reaching its breaking point. Huff, huff. Sakaski looked even worse. He was breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face. His body was covered in jagged, thunder-seared wounds, and the magma power around him was starting to wane. Chen Fan, I'm taking you down today. Sakaski snarled, his face contorted with rage. You're just trash. Think you'll even survive today, dog? Chen Fan's eyes burned with cold fury. You're asking for it. Sakaski's pent-up rage finally blew like a volcano. Lava sea. Magma erupted from Sakaski's body. He raised his hands, gathering the all-consuming fire. He formed a huge ring, then unleashed torrents of magma, each several yards thick, that converged in mid-air to become a colossal sea of magma, hundreds of yards high, crashing down on Chen Fan. Chen Fan showed no fear. His only thought was to kill this deadbeat in front of him. 800 million volts. Thunder lightning Kirin. The destructive thunder surrounding Chen Fan intensified, especially the faint violet lightning, which began to surge with energy. he raised his hands, and dark clouds instantly filled the sky, *ZZZZZZZZZZ, star, lightning flashed wildly, and a gigantic kirin made of pure thunder, over 100 yards tall, materialized in the clouds. It radiated terrifying divine power, promising utter annihilation. The thunder kirin charged straight toward the sea of magma. Everyone, except Hawkeye Mihawk and Kazan, who were still locked in their deadly dance, stared upwards. It was clear to everyone now, this single attack would decide the battle. Boom! The thunder kirin collided with the sea of magma, and the two cataclysmic forces unleashed a violent explosion. This was a clash of the elements. The sky and earth seemed to warp and twist. Blasts echoed endlessly. Everything was destroyed, everything was obliterated. The explosion sent out a massive shockwave, rippling outwards in concentric circles. Chen Fan and Sakaski, both pushed to their absolute limits, were caught in the epicenter of the blast. Defenseless, they were hurled away by the explosion, Chen Fan plummeting like a boulder, Sakaski falling like a stone. Bang, bang, star. Seconds later, two massive craters appeared in the ground, sending rubble flying and dust billowing. Both the Navy and Lafitte's crew watched intently, desperate to know who had emerged victorious. As the smoke slowly cleared, Chen Fan stood there, swaying on his feet. Huff, huff. He struggled to breathe, his body a roadmap of horrifying wounds, some exposing bone. All the destructive thunder in his body had dissipated, as if he had finally reached his limit. On the other side, Sakaski lay sprawled in a crater. He was covered in injuries, his strength spent. He tried to stand, but every movement brought waves of excruciating pain, as if ants were gnawing at his bones. He couldn't move. It was clear, Chen Fan had barely pulled out the win. "Looks like I win after all, you mutt." A manic grin stretched across Chen Fan's face. He gathered the last vestiges of his strength, focusing a pulse of destructive thunder in his fist. With a final, desperate effort, he unleashed a thunder dragon straight at Sakaski. Sakaski, his face contorted in rage and despair, tried to resist, but the pain in his body was overwhelming, as if every bone was shattered. He was completely helpless. Regret washed over Sakaski. Why? Why didn't he take the opportunity to kill this guy when he had the chance, before he became this strong? The thunder dragon was about to engulf Sakaski. Chapter 73. The winner has been decided. Get on the boat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Heads up. A frigid spear of ice shot toward the thunder dragon, blistering fast. In a flash, the thunder dragon was sent flying, and the ice vanished into thin air. Instantly, an ice-covered figure materialized in front of Sakaski. It was Kazan, stepping in to save Sakaski. At the last second, he shook off Hawkeye Mihawk. Kazan was beat up himself, sporting plenty of cuts and bruises, but nothing life-threatening. Hawkeye Mihawk scoffed. With a surge of sword energy, he shattered the ice that had encased him. Gripping Black Blade Yi, he glared at Kazan, radiating murderous intent. Seeing Kazan intercept the attack, Chen Fan's face twisted with frustration at his failure to finish off Sakaski. Thunder God Chen Fan, looking for round 2. Kazan addressed Chen Fan, his gaze flicking to Hawkeye Mihawk. A dozen or so warships loomed behind him. Chen Fan stood alongside Hawkeye Mihawk and Lafitte, with Nico Robin behind him. Though, she wasn't much of a fighter. Worse, Chen Fan was running on fumes. The Thunder Dragon attack had drained his reserves. With a stony expression, Chen Fan locked eyes on Sakaski, who was sprawled on the ground like a dog. Fury burned in his gaze, his fists clenched with the urge to end him right then and there, but weighing the odds, Chen Fan knew it was a pipe dream. Pushing the fight would probably get Kazan and Hawkeye Mihawk killed. Lafitte and Monet, with their lieutenant general and senior colonel strength, would be sitting ducks against a dozen mid-sized warships. Any serious fight would be a % suicide mission, tops, and Chen Fan, with his sights set on ruling the world, wasn't about to throw his life away for a meaningless grudge match. "You're a pathetic mess, dog. Haven't improved a bit in 2 years. Lucky for you this time, I'll let you off the hook, but hope you can keep up the streak." Chen Fan taunted Sakaski, a sneer twisting his lips. Sakaski's face flushed crimson with rage at the insult. He tried to haul himself to his feet, but the grievous injuries racking his body sent him reeling in agony. Let's go. With that, Chen Fan crackled with electricity and vanished in a lightning flash. Hawkeye my hawk, knowing a prolonged battle was a losing game, sheathed his black blade and strode toward the Thor. Kazan, still cloaked in ice, watched it all play out, making no move to give chase. He was well aware that pushing the fight would only bleed the Navy dry, plus, Chen Fan wielded Conqueror's Haki. Even if that level of power had a limited effect on stronger opponents, it would be catastrophic for ordinary soldiers. The sailors on the Navy warship breathed a collective sigh of relief. They hadn't expected the Thor pirates to be so formidable, or that the thunder god Chen Fan would hand Lieutenant General Sikorsky such a decisive defeat. Back on the Thor. Get us out of here, full speed ahead. Chen Fan barked the order to Lafitte, eager to put distance between them and any Navy reinforcements. While he hadn't managed to kill Sikorsky this time, Chen Fan had gotten a clear read on his strength. If he could beat him once, he could do it again. With the sea breeze whipping and the sun blazing overhead, the Thor tore through the waves. Monet had already raided the galley, emerging with a mountain of grub. She knew her big brother always needed to refuel after a serious beatdown. Chen Fan glanced at the spread, then at Monet, before tearing into the food with reckless abandon. As the food went down, a wave of verdant heat surged through his body, like a rejuvenating downpour, mending his wounds. His battered body stabilized, the gashes on his skin beginning to scab over, though the deeper injuries and gruesome wounds would take days to heal. It was a testament to the severity of Chen Fan's injuries. Back on the Navy ship, Sikorsky finally succumbed to his injuries after watching Chen Fan's retreat. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he knew he was about to lose consciousness. As he drifted into the dark, his expression was a mask of bitter frustration. He had been crushed. If Kazan hadn't stepped in, he'd be worm food. He couldn't grasp it. He'd never slacked off in his training in the last 2 years, and had always been gifted. How was it possible that in a measly 2 years, this upstart had caught up with him? With a final surge of resentment, Sikorsky blacked out on the stretcher. Kazan watched with a troubled expression. He had sparred with Chen Fan a year and a half ago. Chen Fan had been the weaker fighter back then, but in that short time, he'd risen to the point of crushing Sikorsky, and Hawkeye my hawk had been evolving just as rapidly. In a year and a half, he had become evenly matched. These two are monsters. Their arrival on this sea will definitely set off a terrible whirlpool. Kazan, who was always calm, sighed in his heart. Night fell, bringing a cool evening breeze. Chen Fan was on the deck of the Thor, wrapped in bandages. Hawkeye my hawk was also bandaged up on the other side. While his injuries were less severe, his recovery was not as fast as Chen Fan's. In addition, there was no ship doctor on the ship, so he could only put on a bandage and apply some medicine. Nico Robin, sitting on the deck, watched the two powerful figures. She had witnessed their strength firsthand. She knew that if she wanted to survive and escape the Navy's pursuit, she could not do it alone and would have to rely on others. After hesitating for a few seconds, Nico Robin walked towards Chen Fan with firm eyes. Hello, Thunder God Chen Fan, I want to join your pirate group. Nico Robin's childish voice sounded. Chen Fan was surprised by her words. He had been scheming to get Nico Robin on board since he was curious about the historical texts. But before he could make a move, Nico Robin was offering to join his pirate group. Chen Fan then reasoned that the Navy would hunt the little girl if she escaped now. She wanted to survive, and his pirate group and his own strength could help her survive. Why do you want to join my pirate team? Chen Fan asked Nico Robin. You are strong. I want to seek asylum, and I want to translate the text of history and reveal the truth hidden by the world government. When Nico Robin mentioned the world government, her eyes filled with anger. It was the world government that destroyed the island where she grew up and killed all the people in it. After hearing what Nico Robin said, Chen Fan pretended to think deeply for a moment. Chapter 74 Whitebeard Pirates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Fan had planned to bring Nico Robin aboard, regardless of her answer. The question was just a formality. Hey, she's been through so much, bro. The Navy wiped out everyone on her island. Can't we take her with us? Monet chimed in. Chen Fan glanced at Nico Robin and saw the resentment burning in her eyes, directed at the world government. Alright, from now on, you're a member of my Thor pirates. Thank you, Captain. Nico Robin felt like she finally had a place to belong. She vowed to decipher the historical texts and expose the world government's corruption. Monet practically vibrated with excitement when she heard Chen Fan's decision. "I'll show Nico Robin to her room," Monet said, grabbing Nico Robin's hand with a huge smile. She couldn't contain herself. Usually, she was the only one who ever talked on the ship, while the other three just grunted like cavemen, especially Chen Fan and Mihawk. Those two spent all their time training. Now, with Nico Robin on board, Monet was sure she'd finally have someone to chat with. Meanwhile, Kazan and the badly injured Sakazuki made their way back to Marine headquarters. Kazan, after a quick patching up in the infirmary, headed straight for the Fleet Admiral's office. Sakazuki, lying nearby, was swathed in bandages from head to toe and still unconscious. His injuries were clearly severe. Fleet Admiral's office, behind the desk, Fleet Admiral Sengoku sat with a troubled expression. Tsuru and Kong, flanking him, looked just as serious. Only Garp, ever cheerful, lounged on the sofa, munching on donuts. "Knock, knock." Got a knock at the door. "Come in," Sengoku said, already knowing who it was. Kazan entered, his face grim. "Kazan, Chen Fan's gotten strong fast. You're telling me he beat Sakazuki fair and square at O'Hara, and that Hawkeye Mihawk held his own against you?" Kong asked, his voice laced with disbelief. He'd gotten the basics over the Den Mushi, but still couldn't quite wrap his head around it. In just a year and a half, those two had improved that much. "Yes, Fleet Admiral Kong, Chen Fan's easily at Admiral candidate level now. Sakazuki fought him hard for an hour but lost in the end. As for Mihawk, he's improved a ton too. A year and a half ago, I would have been sure of winning. Now, not so sure." Kazan looked at the assembled officers. Their faces confirmed he wasn't exaggerating. Kazan's confirmation made Sengoku, Tsuru, and Kong even more grim, especially Kong, whose brow furrowed deeply. "Wow, that's impressive. They've gotten this strong in just 18 months. Give them a few more years, and who knows what'll happen." Garp chuckled from the sofa. Kong gave Garp a look that said it all. Clearly, Sengoku was the better choice for the next Fleet Admiral. Garp's happy-go-lucky attitude just wasn't right for the job. Effective immediately, we're reinstating the highest-level bounty order for Chen Fan. Admiral Zifa will lead the team to capture him. Chen Fan's bounty is now 1.5 billion berries, and Hawkeye Mihawk's is 1.3 billion. This time, Kong didn't bother asking for input. He'd made up his mind. He couldn't imagine what would happen if Chen Fan and Hawkeye Mihawk were allowed to continue growing unchecked. They could easily become a pirate crew on par with the Emperor's. That was a frightening thought. Kong regretted not issuing an admiral-level bounty for Chen Fan from the start. Now, after 18 months, it was too late. He was determined to capture Chen Fan this time. Otherwise, if Chen Fan laid low and kept growing for another 8 or 10 years, even an admiral might not be able to take him. Sengoku and Tsuru didn't object. They knew the potential that Chen Fan and Hawkeye Mihawk possessed. If they were allowed to reach their full potential, they would be a force to be reckoned with. After laying down the orders, Kong looked at Garp. Seeing the look in Kong's eyes, Garp immediately stopped eating donuts, a bad feeling creeping in. Things are too volatile out on the seas. We're sending Zifa after Chen Fan, and we're short-handed in the new world. Garp, your vacation's been cancelled. We'll reschedule it when things calm down a bit. No way. My grandson's just been born. We had a deal. I have to go hold my grandson. Garp protested, the laughter vanishing from his face. Kong knew about Garp's new grandson, but his hands were tied. The new world was a powder keg due to the constant power struggles. The Navy needed enough admiral-level muscle to keep the peace, or things could get out of hand fast. Hearing Kong's firm words, Garp knew he wouldn't be seeing his grandson anytime soon. Ugh. Even the ever-optimistic Garp couldn't help but sigh. New world, Whitebeard's territory. Moby Dick. On deck, Marco sat reading a newspaper. When he saw the lightning-themed figure splashed across the front page, he stared in disbelief. A year and a half already? You've gotten this strong. You actually beat Sakazuki in a straight fight. The headline Marco was reading screamed that Chen Fan had defeated the Navy's monster, Sakazuki. Sakazuki hadn't just earned that monster reputation, he'd carved it out for himself, with his devastating magma attacks, terrifying combat skills, and mastery of both types of hockey. He was virtually unbeatable among his peers. Even older pirates struggled against him. Sakazuki more than lived up to the title of monster, but someone younger than himself had defeated such a monster. It was no wonder pirates who knew Sakazuki's strength were in shock. Chapter 75 World Destroyer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Marco, son, what's got your attention? You're staring pretty hard. A towering figure with a white beard like a full moon spoke. This was Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. Just something, Dad. Remember that guy I told you about, the one who mastered the thunder fruit? He disappeared, and then resurfaced a year and a half later to beat Sakazuki. Marco handed the newspaper to Whitebeard. Huh, really? That kid's got some serious talent if he can take down that Navy brat. But listen, son, this isn't gonna shake your confidence, is it? I remember you saying you were gonna beat him. Whitebeard looked at Marco. No way, Dad. I'm gonna take him down, I promise I won't let you down. Marco was speaking from the heart. He'd felt a flicker of fear, wondering if he could defeat Chen Fan. Gururara. That's my Whitebeard son. Whitebeard chuckled, seeing Marco's renewed resolve. 5 days later, the new world, the sun blazed in the sky, shimmering on the ocean. A gentle breeze blew, and seagulls soared overhead. A pirate ship, its flag emblazoned with thunder, sailed through the new world. On deck, Chen Fan and his crew had paused their training to enjoy a meal. Mostly it was frozen stuff, easy to eat, but not exactly gourmet. Nobody knew how to cook. Well, Monet had tried, but after she whipped up some black, goopy mess that sent everyone running to the bathroom after a single bite, she was permanently banned from the kitchen. The others weren't exactly lining up to volunteer. Chen Fan gazed at the horizon, thinking, looks like I need to find a cook, and maybe a ship's doctor too. He wanted someone strong, though, not just dead weight. Chen Fan was all about the elite route. He'd rather have a small, powerful crew than a horde of losers. His recruits either had serious power and unique skills or showed a lot of promise. As the Thor plowed through the waves, a massive pirate ship loomed into view. On its deck stood a giant of a man, wearing a bucket-like helmet. Captain, looks like a pirate ship ahead. A scrawny pirate spoke up to Bundy Walder. Bundy Walder glanced over. Some small fry pirates. Why are you bothering me with this? Just blast them out of the water. He glared at the pirate. Careful, that's the Thor pirates. Binjack, perched on Bundy Walder's shoulder, tiny and frail-looking, recognized the ship. Bro, what's the deal with these Thor pirates? That name rings a bell. Bundy Ward looked puzzled, but couldn't quite place it. The captain of the Thor pirates is the one who escaped from Impel Down. Word is, he can go toe-to-toe with a Navy vice admiral. He's got serious potential, so watch it. Binjack warned. Just compete with a vice admiral. Bro, what's to be scared of? I'm the world destroyer. Bundy Walder was still trying to figure out who could escape Impel Down. He just shrugged. He'd taken down vice admirals before. Full speed ahead. Ram. Bundy Walder barked at his crew. Immediately, the colossal pirate ship surged toward the Thor. Binjack kept quiet, knowing his brother's strength. Average lieutenant generals weren't a match for him. Plus, taking out Chen Fan would boost their reputation. What Binjack didn't know was that Chen Fan, from a year and a half ago, when he competed with the lieutenant generals, was no longer the Chen Fan of today. Meanwhile, on the Thor, everyone spotted the huge ship bearing down on them. Chen Fan squinted. The massive figure on deck looked familiar. Isn't that Bundy Walder, the so-called world destroyer? Captain, should we steer clear or charge ahead? Lafitte asked Chen Fan. Head on, perfect opportunity for the Thor pirates' first battle in the New World. Chen Fan grinned. Both pirate crews were eager to defeat the other and boost their rep. As both ships closed in, the distance narrowed to less than 100 yards. Wahahaha. These Thor pirates didn't run when they saw the world destroyer. Time to take a cannonball from me. Bundy Ward grabbed a cannonball and hurled it. Multiply the cannonball by 50. Instantly, the cannonball ballooned to 50 times its original size, rocketing toward the Thor. Monet and Nico Robin gasped at the sight, but despite their surprise, Monet was confident. She knew her brother would handle this. Interesting. No wonder they call him the World Destroyer. Chen Fan remained calm, wisps of blue lightning crackling around him. Thunder Dragon. Chen Fan punched forward with his right fist, channeling the thunder. A blue thunder dragon erupted, blasting towards the massive cannonball. Boom! The thunder dragon and the cannonball collided, a deafening explosion shook the air, dust billowed, and shockwaves rippled, the ocean churned and erupted. Wahahaha. Not bad, kid. You actually blocked my attack. But anything that gets in my way gets destroyed. Bundy Walder sneered arrogantly at Chen Fan. Idiot. Chen Fan spat back, his expression cold. Damn you. How dare you insult me? Bundy Walder was beyond angry. He jumped down from his brother's shoulder. Moonwalk. He performed the moonwalk, one of the Navy's 6 powers, launching himself into the air to attack Chen Fan, who knew where Bundy Ward learned those Navy moves. Chapter 76 Targeted Overlord Color and Dominance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing this, Chen Fan vanished in a flash of lightning. He wasn't about to let his ship get wrecked. The next second, he reappeared in mid-air, crackling with destructive energy. Alright, kid. Bundy Walder's massive fist, coated in hardened hockey, came blasting toward Chen Fan. Calmly, Chen Fan's own fist, dark with destructive thunder, met it head-on. Boom! The 2 fists collided with the force of dragons clashing, sending out shockwaves. Not bad, you can actually take a punch from me. Let's go again. Bundy Walder, excited, charged again. Chen Fan didn't even bother answering, his face still a mask of calm. Boom! The sounds of flesh impacting flesh echoed through the air, the thunder intensifying. Bundy Walder, relying on his ever-increasing speed, found himself evenly matched with Chen Fan. Their blows rained down, each packed with earth-shattering power. Those below could only see a giant and a lightning bolt locked in combat, a testament to their incredible speed. Multiply speed by 50. Bundy Walder kicked his speed up another notch. He clasped his hands together, forming a fist like a giant axe, and slammed it down on Chen Fan with terrifying speed. The impact created a sonic boom. Interesting. Hockey enhancement, lightning strike. Terrifying thunder erupted around Chen Fan, his 5 fingers forming claws, enveloped in dark hockey and crackling with power. He reached out and grabbed. In an instant, the thunder claws met the hammer fist. Chen Fan's right hand, imbued with incredible force, blocked the attack. Despite the size difference, their strength was nearly equal, leaving Bundy Walder astonished. Then, surprising Bundy Walder, Chen Fan suddenly unleashed the destructive thunder, forcing him back several yards. The next second, a powerful, kingly aura radiated from Chen Fan. The world seemed to darken, turning monochrome. Bundy Walder, about to attack again, froze, stunned. The pirates on the ship below felt as if they were staring directly at a king, their spirits crushed under the weight of an unseen force. Most of the Ward pirates were knocked unconscious by the Conqueror's hockey, only a few of the strongest managing to stay on their feet. This was the result of Chen Fan's training with Conqueror's hockey. While he hadn't mastered the second stage of advanced application, he'd learned to focus it in a single direction, avoiding collateral damage. You bastard! You hurt my brother. I'm going to kill you. Bundy Walder, seeing Binjak collapse, glared at Chen Fan with pure rage. 60 times speed. Bundy Walder accelerated again, launching another attack. Thunder exploded, a horrifying blue energy surrounding Chen Fan as he met the charge. The 2 figures, one large and one small, collided again. Bang, bang. Sonic booms echoed as they traded blows, each intent on killing the other. Aboard the Thor, Hawkeye Mihawk drew his black sword, his eagle-like eyes fixed on the dozen or so pirates remaining on the enemy ship. A man of few words and ruthless efficiency, he vanished. Ha! Hawkeye Mihawk's figure blurred, his sword intent erupting as he charged towards the pirate ship at blinding speed. Come on, he's a master swordsman. Don't underestimate him. Gayram recognized Hawkeye Mihawk and rallied his crew. As Hawkeye Mihawk landed on deck, Gayram charged forward, hurling a barrage of square blocks at him. With a calm expression, Hawkeye Mihawk swung his black blade, cleaving the blocks in two. The remaining 10 pirates attacked Hawkeye Mihawk simultaneously. He remained unfazed, showing no sign of panic, wielding his black sword. Hawkeye Mihawk unleashed a crescent of green energy, slicing through the air. The pirates immediately scrambled to defend themselves. Clang! The sound of blade meeting metal rang out as 5 pirates were sent flying, and 2 were cut in half. Only 3 managed to stay standing. Don't be afraid. Let's take him down together. The survivors exchanged glances and charged, Gayram leading the charge. Back on the Thor, Nico Robin watched Hawkeye Mihawk, concerned. Should we help him? No way, Monet replied, those guys are no match for Mihawk. This pirate crew is just a stepping stone for the Thor pirates. She knew Hawkeye Mihawk was calm, like the captain, but extremely powerful. In mid-air, the battle continued. Chen Fan's thunder-infused fist hurtled toward Bundy Walder. Bundy Walder's massive, hockey-hardened fist met it head-on. The 2 fists collided like dragons, creating an explosion that forced them back. Chen Fan, sizing up Bundy Walder, thought, no wonder they call this guy the World Destroyer. His devil fruit, fighting skills, and hockey are all top-notch. But it's not enough. A smirk played on Chen Fan's lips as he unleashed a torrent of thunder. Thor mode, initiate. The sky darkened, lightning flashed, and Chen Fan became a vessel for pure, raw power. Bundy Walder, regaining his footing, saw Chen Fan's aura intensify. Kid, what are you doing? Confused, Bundy Walder knew he couldn't let Chen Fan power up unopposed. 70 times speed. Severing strike. Bundy Walder's huge fist transformed into a palm, forming a brutal hand chop, his speed reaching an incredible 70 times normal. Boom! The air roared as Bundy Walder's chop, packed with devastating force, descended on Chen Fan. Chapter 77 Speed, Limit State. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the exact moment that blade came down, Chen Fan erupted with destructive lightning, instantly summoning a massive thunder giant. The giant's hand of pure lightning snatched Bundy Walder's hand knife right out of the air. Staring up at the thunder giant, which was nearly as tall as he was, Bundy Walder's eyes widened in surprise. Chen Fan didn't give him time to process it. His fist, crackling with raw thunderous power, slammed directly into Bundy Walder's head. Barely reacting thanks to his 3rd stage hockey, Bundy Walder managed to raise his darkened arms to block the blow. Boom! The impact sent Bundy Walder staggering backwards several yards. Before he could regain his balance, Chen Fan unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. Each blow from the blue thunder giant carried the force to obliterate everything in its path. Bang, bang! The sounds of collision echoed as thunder ripped through the air. Bundy Walder was immediately on the defensive, completely unable to mount a counterattack. Chen Fan had seized complete control of the battle. Meanwhile, on the pirate ship, the deck was slick with blood. Pirate bodies lay scattered everywhere, each riddled with sword wounds. Hawkeye Mihawk now faced only Gayram, the last one standing. The other 11 had all become corpses. Huff, huff. Gayram gasped for air, his face etched with shock and disbelief. He hadn't expected the man before him to be this strong. In just 10 minutes, he'd slaughtered all his comrades. Now, alone, there was no way he could win. His eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. Hawkeye Mihawk offered him no such opportunity. His clothes were still pristine, barely even dusty, and he remained without a single scratch. It was a completely one-sided beatdown. Shink! Hawkeye Mihawk vanished in a blur, his legendary blade, Black Blade Knight, held ready in his right hand. Infused with immense power, he shot toward Gayram with blinding speed. Panic contorted Gayram's face. He desperately shoved both hands forward, creating 2 massive magic cube shields in an attempt to block Hawkeye Mihawk's strike. It was futile. A flash of emerald green sword energy effortlessly sliced the cubes, each several yards across, in half. The blocks bought Guy Ram a single second. I'll take you down with me. Armed. Rubik's Cube fist, Guy Ram roared, coating his body in armament hockey. His fist morphed into the shape of a cube, packed with force, and he swung it with everything he had at Hawkeye Mihawk. Unfazed, Hawkeye Mihawk gripped the black blade tightly, channeling armament hockey and his formidable sword intent. Clang, the supreme blade, crackling with power, met the Rubik's Cube fist head-on. In an instant, the Rubik's Cube fist was shredded like it was made of tofu, not rock. Ack! Blood erupted as Guy Ram screamed, his eyes filled with terror as he stared at Hawkeye Mihawk. The next moment, a flash of white, a spray of blood, and Guy Ram's severed head tumbled to the deck. His headless body collapsed, blood gushing from the wound. Even in death, Guy Ram's eyes remained fixed on Hawkeye Mihawk, locked in a rictus of horror that spoke volumes of the despair he'd felt as Hawkeye Mihawk's sword ended his life. Aboard the Thor, Nico Robin's youthful face reflected her astonishment. She hadn't realized that her first mate was so powerful, able to wipe out a dozen pirates on his own in just a few minutes. Is our first mate that strong? Nico Robin couldn't help but marvel. So what? Our captain is even stronger. Big Bro beat Mihawk before he even recruited him, Monet retorted, overhearing Nico Robin's praise of Hawkeye Mihawk. Hearing this, Nico Robin gazed upward, toward the raging thunder in the sky. It was true. Sakaski, that monster, had been defeated by the man up there. That kind of talent and strength was truly terrifying. A glimmer of hope sparked within Nico Robin. Perhaps her chances of surviving long enough to reveal the truth were greater than she dared to imagine. Back in the air, the battle continued to rage. Bundy Walder glanced down at the carnage below. Most of his crew were dead or wounded, and those who remained were passed out due to the Conqueror's hockey. Rage boiled within him, threatening to erupt like a volcano. You little punks. I'm going to kill you. Over limit state. 100-fold speed. Punch. Bundy Walder pushed his fruit ability to the absolute limit, boosting his speed 30-fold. A sonic boom ripped through the air as Bundy Walder's huge fist, now pitch black, accelerated. With a 100-fold increase in speed, it packed the force of a missile. You think you're worthy of killing me? Despite the onslaught, Chen Fan's expression remained unchanged. Arcs of destructive lightning crackled, forming blue, serpent-like tendrils around him. The Thunder Giant met the attack with a massive open palm. Boom! Fist met palm in a cataclysmic clash, unleashing shockwaves that rippled in every direction. Bundy Walder's sheer power actually forced Chen Fan backward. Didn't I tell you? You're no match for me. Just give up and die already. Seeing Chen Fan falter, Bundy Walder grinned maniacally. He pushed his speed increase to the max once more, unleashing a storm of furious blows. The Thunder Giant desperately tried to fend off the onslaught, but Chen Fan was being pushed back. Scars began to appear on his body, and the lightning began to fade. Chen Fan looked completely outmatched, but his face betrayed no panic. Hawkeye Mihawk and the others watched from below, their faces calm, with no intention of interfering. They knew their captain was holding back. He was still far from using his full strength. Up in the air, the explosions continued, blood rained down, and bolts of lightning vaporized the ocean's surface. Chapter 78 Fall in Battle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kid, you're gonna die today. Bundy Walder's face oozed arrogance. With each word, his massive fists kept pounding, and he barreled forward relentlessly. Is that so? If that's all you've got, this fight's already over. A smirk played on Chen Fan's lips, and his aura exploded. What are you babbling about? You haven't figured it out yet? I've got the upper hand here. Bundy Walder seemed momentarily confused, but he doubled down on his fruit's power, each attack packing enough punch to shatter mountains. That massive fist hurtled towards Chen Fan again. A wall of darkness rose to block it, but the sheer force sent Chen Fan, a 30-foot thunder giant, flying backward hundreds of yards. You killed so many of my crew, kid. I'm gonna drink your blood and eat your flesh. Bundy Walder's face lit up with pride as he saw Chen Fan reeling. Then he glanced down at his pirate ship, his expression twisting with distress. He had just gathered that crew. Now, they were all dead. Luckily, his brother was only knocked out, nothing serious. Chen Fan ignored Bundy Walder's rant, his expression hardening. Thor mode. Phase 2. Instantly, lightning flashed, dark clouds swirled, and thunder echoed through the sky. The blue lightning around Chen Fan began to morph into a sinister purple. In a heartbeat, the entire sky was consumed by endless thunder. A web of crackling energy blanketed the ocean 100 yards out, making it look like the end of the world. All that destructive power converged on Chen Fan. His hair whipped around his face, his pupils glowed purple, and his aura intensified. Below, the crew of the Thor watched in astonishment. Even though they'd seen it before, this incredible sight never failed to amaze them. Up in the air, Bundy Walder was momentarily speechless. He could feel Chen Fan's power surging. He finally understood why this kid had been so confident. 100-fold speed. Hand blade. That without a second thought, Bundy Walder turned his right hand into a blade, and at 100 times normal speed, became a blur as he slashed toward Chen Fan, creating sonic booms with every move. His face was cold. But just as the blow was about to land, Chen Fan raised his hand slightly, summoning a terrifying surge of power. Boom! At the moment of impact, Chen Fan blocked the chop. Then, to Bundy Walder's shock, Chen Fan's lightning intensified, and with a sudden burst of force, he sent Bundy Walder flying back dozens of yards. As he regained his footing, he glared at Chen Fan. Chen Fan was now completely engulfed in fearsome lightning. Streams of blue energy danced like snakes, and the destructive purple lightning swirled ominously. Chen Fan had truly become a god of thunder. You think you can beat me now that you've powered up? I'm Bundy Walder, the destroyer of worlds. Although Bundy Walder sensed Chen Fan's growing strength, his pride as a powerful man wouldn't let him back down. Armament. 100-fold speed. Punch. Bundy Walder's massive, darkened fist shot forward at blinding speed, unleashing incredible force. Armament. Thunder fist. Chen Fan, his expression calm, focused destructive lightning on his right fist, turning it as black as ink. He launched it forward like a dragon. Boom! The massive fist and the thunder fist collided. The size difference between the two figures was like an elephant and an ant, but the difference in power was not. The sheer force of the thunder pushed Bundy Walder back. Stunned, Bundy Walder stared at his trembling right hand in disbelief. Before he could recover, Chen Fan surged forward, appearing behind him in a flash of lightning. A blue thunder spear materialized in his right hand, and he thrust it forward with incredible speed. Unable to dodge, Bundy Walder could only turn and raise his right arm to block. He coated his arm with armored hockey. Blood spurted out as Chen Fan's spear pierced straight through Bundy Walder's arm. The deep wound looked gruesome, but Chen Fan wasn't finished. He unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. Even as Bundy Walder fought desperately with all his might, he could only barely defend himself. Blood poured from his body, and wounds appeared everywhere. The tables had completely turned. Impossible. This is impossible. I'm the destroyer of the world. How can you, a brat, suddenly become so strong? How can you defeat me? Bundy Walder's face was filled with disbelief, throwing 100-fold speed punches, but it was useless. Chen Fan, wreathed in destructive thunder, easily blocked every attack. Weaklings are always weak. Chen Fan's eyes burned with cold fury. His fingers curled into claws, crackling with terrifying power, and he lunged straight for Bundy Walder's chest. With no time to escape and a flicker of fear in his eyes, Bundy Walder was too late. Chen Fan's claws ripped through his chest. Aya! Bundy Walder screamed in agony. I'm going to kill you! Enraged, Bundy Walder gathered all his strength into a punch, aiming it at Chen Fan. With a calm expression, Chen Fan channeled the power of thunder into his own right fist, wrapping it in armored hockey, and met the blow head-on. Boom! The two fists collided like dragons clashing, sending out a shockwave that dispersed the surrounding clouds. Bundy Walder's massive body crashed back hundreds of yards, barely managing to stay upright. Chen Fan, bathed in the radiant light of destructive thunder, stood tall and unchallenged. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you! Bundy Walder's face contorted with fury, his body trembling with rage, and veins popped out on his arms. Hundredfold, cannonball punch. Bundy Walder pulled his fists together like a cannonball, charging them with terrifying power. Combined with the impact of 100-fold speed, creating sonic booms that shredded the air as they hurtled toward Chen Fan. Chapter 79, Seeing and Hearing the Domineering Breakthrough. You are listening at novelfull.audio. World Destroyer, you're going to be the first chump our Thor pirates take down in the new world. Chen Fan's face hardened, crackling with raw power. 600 million volts, thunder unicorn, he threw his hand skyward, and the clouds roiled, spitting lightning. A colossal, blue unicorn, easily dozens of yards tall, materialized from the storm, radiating a terrifying, godlike energy. Then, it plummeted like a meteor straight for Bundy Ward, boom, star. The thunder unicorn slammed into Ward's cannonball fists in a cataclysmic explosion of force, shockwaves ripped outwards, distorting the sky and sea. The ocean churned into a frenzy. Bundy Ward's bravado melted into sheer terror as he realized he couldn't stop the thunderous beast. For a handful of desperate seconds, they were locked in a standstill before the thunder unicorn broke through, engulfing Bundy Ward, boom. Starred at a deafening blast echoed as a hulking, scarred figure crashed back to earth. He managed to right himself just before hitting the pirate ship. Landing on his knees, cough, starred at a mouthful of blood splattered the deck. Bones shattered, an electric burn sizzled across his skin. Bundy Ward glared at Chen Fan, defiant despite his agony. He tried to rise, but his shattered body wouldn't obey. Not bad, you managed to survive that. Guess there's a reason they call you World Destroyer. Chen Fan acknowledged, a raspy voice shouted from the deck. It was Binjak, barely conscious. Get out of here. You can't win. Bundy Ward snapped back. Bro, what about you? I'll cover you, just run. Oh, trying to ditch me? Did I say you could? Chen Fan sneered, materializing in a flash of lightning on the pirate ship. Thunderbolt, he said, his voice flat. Bundy Ward's eyes widened in panic. Chen Fan pointed a finger, a lance of pure lightning shot towards Bundy Ward. He thrashed, desperate to defend himself, but his injuries had turned his body into dead weight. Just as the lightning was about to strike, a small figure leaped in front of him. The lightning bolt pierced straight through Binjak's chest. Run! Binjak gasped, his final word to his brother. No. Brother. Ward roared, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. He didn't know where it came from, but he summoned every ounce of strength to coat his fists in armed hockey and hurled them at Chen Fan's head. When you become a pirate, you sign the contract with death. Chen Fan's eyes were cold and devoid of pity. He met the attack with a thunderous fist of his own. A raging thunder dragon exploded from his hand, swallowing Bundy Ward whole. Boom, star. The world dissolved in electricity. Ward's desperate, final attack never even touched Chen Fan. He simply vanished in the storm. Chen Fan stood untouched. In his eyes, this was a kill or be killed world, where mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford, because if he'd lost, Bundy Ward would have shown him no mercy. Chen Fan raised his hands, gathering the crackling energy above. He formed a massive sphere of pure thunder, then hurled it down. The sphere engulfed the pirate ship in a violent explosion. The Ward pirates and the ship itself vanished beneath the waves. Chen Fan reverted to his elemental form, returning to the Thor. Keep going, he ordered Lafitte. Aye, Captain, Lafitte replied, steering the ship forward. The World Destroyer, Bundy Ward, had been wiped out by Chen Fan, but Chen Fan acted as if it were nothing at all. Monet watched, filled with awe and longing, wondering if she'd ever achieve such power. Nico Robin was already thinking if her choice was ever correct. 3 days later, the new world's oceans shimmered under the blazing sun. The news of Chen Fan's victory over Bundy Ward, of the Thunder Pirate's annihilation of his entire crew, spread like wildfire through the new world. The veteran pirates were stunned. They knew the World Destroyer, who had even taken down a couple of Navy vice admirals. To see him fall to some upstart was unbelievable. Before, some had dismissed Chen Fan's escape from Impel Down as luck or navy incompetence. Now, faced with the terrifying power of Thunder God Chen Fan, they began to realize that the Thunder God pirates were a force to be reckoned with, a real contender for a seat on the Emperor's throne. Back aboard the Thor, Chen Fan had just finished his gravity training and taken off the bracelets. His observation hockey was reaching vast distances, able to sense the presence of creatures tens of thousands of meters away. His hockey had become so advanced that he could almost predict his opponent's moves. Looks like my observation hockey leveled up faster than my armament hockey, Chen Fan mused, surprised, but then again, it made sense. He'd dedicated over a year and a half to mastering the heart net, focusing his training primarily on observation hockey. Chapter 80 Red Hair Shanks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Without another thought, Chen Fan wrapped up his training and plopped down in a chair. It was lunchtime. Today, though, there was a new chef, Hawkeye Myhawk, looking as indifferent as ever, served up the meal he'd prepared. Soon, the table was overflowing with over 20 dishes that looked incredible. Chen Fan grinned, looking at Myhawk. How did Myhawk end up cooking today? Chen Fan had twisted his arm. Naturally, Myhawk looked at Chen Fan, confused. He still couldn't figure out how his captain knew he could cook. How'd you know I could cook? Myhawk couldn't help but ask Chen Fan, who was already digging in. Just a hunch, Chen Fan said casually. He'd originally suggested Myhawk cook, but Myhawk had flat out refused. However, when Chen Fan suggested that if Myhawk didn't want to cook, Monet could make the meal for them, Myhawk's expression changed instantly, and he'd agreed to cook. Myhawk, this is delicious, but I still think mine would be better. Maybe I should cook next time, Monet said between bites. No way. Absolutely not, Chen Fan and the others said in unison, their faces immediately falling. Humph. Fine, you jerks, Monet huffed, putting her hands on her hips and pouting, clearly annoyed. Phew. Chen Fan and the others didn't care if Monet was angry or not. They were just relieved she wasn't cooking. After lunch, everyone got back to their routines. Most started training. With a captain like Chen Fan, a total training nut, and Myhawk right behind him, it was hard not to be. Even Nico Robin, the newest member, spent most of her time learning the Navy's 6 styles and experimenting with her devil fruit abilities. Chen Fan cranked his gravity bracelet to the max and dove back into physical training. After a good workout, he not only scarfed down food to recover and repair his body, but also used lightning to reinforce himself, slowly but surely improving his physical fitness. Was this why Chen Fan had adapted to the highest grade 25-ton gravity bracelet so quickly? With a gentle sea breeze, time drifted by. 2 hours later, a medium-sized island appeared on the horizon. The island resembled a giant turtle. From a distance, they could see trees and buildings. It was obviously inhabited. Captain, there's an island ahead. Looks like people live there. Our supplies are running low. Should we go ashore and stock up? Lafitte asked Chen Fan, who was training. Sure, Chen Fan replied, stopping his workout and heading for the bathroom in the cabin. Hearing Chen Fan's okay, Lafitte steered the Thor toward the island, the propeller whirring. Yes. Robin, we can go for a walk, Monet squealed, excited, calling out to Nico Robin. Okay. Nico Robin replied simply. She wanted to stretch her legs too. Soon, Chen Fan finished washing up, changed, and came out of the cabin, standing over 6 feet tall, with sharp features and long, shiny black hair. He made Monet momentarily speechless. When Chen Fan sat down, Monet snapped back to reality. By this time, the Thor had reached the island and pulled up on the beach. Chen Fan and the others disembarked. Lafitte stayed behind to watch the ship. Soon, they crossed the beach and entered the town. The streets were bustling with people, filled with laughter. The atmosphere was cheerful. Monet looked around, her eyes wide with excitement. Though she was only 14, a girl's nature was to grow up from childhood, so Monet immediately grabbed Nico Robin and dragged her off to shop. Of course, the berry in her hand was courtesy of Chen Fan. Chen Fan didn't sweat the small stuff. After all, the gold he'd brought back from Sky Island would last them a while, and even if they ran out, he could Always go back for more. Thinking about it, Chen Fan did a mental calculation. The arc maxim should be nearly complete by now. Looks like he needed to find time to head back to Sky Island. While the two girls were browsing, Chen Fan and Hawkeye Mihawk also ducked into a store and bought a bunch of supplies. Mostly semi-prepared foods, things that could be cooked up quickly. Mihawk was a pretty good cook, after all, but Chen Fan had no intention of turning Hawkeye Mihawk into a full-time chef. It wouldn't be worth it if it hindered his strength. After finishing their shopping, Chen Fan called out to Monet, "Time to go." "Okay, big brother." Monet had already dragged Nico Robin around, buying tons of clothes and accessories. She was a little bummed when Chen Fan said it was time to leave, but she wouldn't disobey her big brother's orders. Just as the four of them were heading back, Chen Fan and Hawkeye Mihawk both stopped. Two figures stood in their path. The one on the right had red hair, a straw hat, 3 scars across his face, and flip-flops. The one on the left had blonde curly hair and a band on his forehead. Most noticeable was his huge, sausage-like mouth. It was red-haired Shanks and Yasopp. "What a coincidence, Mihawk. You're here too." Shanks, having just arrived in the new world from the East Blue, saw Mihawk and greeted him enthusiastically. "Humph," Hawkeye Mihawk replied calmly. They obviously knew each other. "Why don't you join my crew?" Shanks said to Mihawk, smiling. "No need. I'm already in a crew," Hawkeye Mihawk said, turning him down flat. Red-haired Shanks was a little surprised. He'd asked Hawkeye Mihawk to join him a year and a half ago, but was shot down then. Who could have possibly recruited Mihawk as a crew member? "Isn't it a little rude to try to recruit my vice-captain right in front of me?" Chen Fan said to red-haired Shanks, a smile playing on his lips. "I'm sorry, but you look familiar." Red-haired Shanks thought hard. He had a feeling he'd seen Chen Fan somewhere before, but he couldn't quite place it.